2025 City Commission meeting to order at 4 p.m. All 5 commissioners are present. First item to consider are the minutes of the previous meeting. Any comments, concerns, additions, corrections?
I have none.
I have none.
I consider
hope-
them, but they were impeccable.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Citizen comments. We have citizens.
I have some handouts
If-
if it would be appropriate to give to the.
Absolutely. If you'd like to take the podium, please, and introduce yourself.
I'm Reuben Schuckman. I worked for the city for 15 years. I was the tourism marketing director for the Hayes Convention Visitors Bureau. So I advertised and promoted Hayes, and I was able to retire, and I'm got other project I'm working on now. But all the years, or most of the years, lived here. We actually lived between Catherine and Hayes out in the country, and we enjoyed nice, quiet evenings on July 4th. We moved to Hayes this past year, and a guy in our neighborhood, he gave us kind of an early heads-up warning. He's an elderly gentleman, a veteran. He said, get out of Hayes if you don't want to feel like you're in a war zone for a couple days. So we did, and so we got back for the weekend, and oh my goodness, I was surprised to see we picked up buckets and buckets of fireworks debris from our front yard, our backyard, from our rock area. We could see it on the roof of our house. Luckily, my 25-year-old son was home, and he was brave enough to get up on the roof and pull these cardboard cartridges out of the gutters. I imagine, like, if these would get caught in the downspouts with some of these other whirly-gig kind of things or something like that, how they would clog up the downspouts. So this was all kind of new to us, living out in the country all these years. My wife was furious. She was about ready to take this stuff and dump it in a neighbor's yard. And I said, no, we don't know where it came from. You can't do that. I said, let me contact the police. I was curious as far as littering laws. I mean, it doesn't seem right that one neighbor can basically litter in another neighbor's lawn. And so I knew Don from when I worked for the city of Hayes, and I wrote him a letter, and I just wanted to find out, is it okay for littering of, to have this stuff dispersed in another neighbor's lawn? I mean, I guess by the ordinances, the city commission says, yes, it is okay that this junk can end up in another neighbor's lawn, and maybe there's no enforcement or something there. So in talking just in the last few days with other neighbors and family and uncles and friends and coworkers, I put together, my wife actually had some ideas on the disadvantages and advantages, and so I put that together. I know any of you could say, well, that's what you get for moving from the country and moving to Hayes. Like, yeah, we're still not quite sure if that was the best decision. But I realize that it's going to take some out-of-the-box thinking, and not everybody's going to be happy, and there's going to be maybe half the people that are happy and about a fourth of them are not going to be so happy. But I'm of the opinion that there's probably a larger percentage of people in the city of Hayes that would probably prefer no fireworks. There's probably about 6 or 7 different groups of people for various reasons that would be like, yeah, I'm fine. I just don't think that they contact you. I don't think that they come to a city commission meeting. I don't think they complain. They don't get on the city survey and voice their concerns or something. But I just kind of tend to think that there's probably more out there than you're hearing from. And so that's what I wanted to share with you this evening. And if it's okay, can I hand this material?
Certainly.
Thanks, sir.
And I thank you for your time.
And if you have an extra
Thank
one
you.
to give to Becky from the press, that would be great.
Thank you very much.
I can make a copy.
Yeah, we'll get a
Yep,
copy to her.
Yep, we'll do that.
We appreciate you coming forward, Reuben. It was nice to hear from you and see you. I hadn't seen you for a while. I appreciate that. And as you say, there's always 2 sides, and in this case, there may be 7 sides. So we'll consider everything. Thank you very much. The consent agenda, I need approval for consent agenda. The only item you'll be looking at is a cereal malt beverage item for Tiger Station.
I move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
been moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Cunningham. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass 5-0. Next item on the agenda, number 5, is presentation from Gary Foss of the ArcStar Group, Hayes Regional Airport Performance.
We'll get this. Worked for us earlier, so let's hope it works now.
Here he is.
Hey Gary, can you hear us?
I hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Yep, you look good if you just
Oh,
want to get into presentation mode.
fantastic. All right, let me know when you're ready.
If you just want to put yourself in presentation mode.
I'm in presentation. Oh, I see. Share the content. Yeah, let me do that. How's that? Can you see it?
Perfect.
Yep.
Wonderful content. You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, excellent. I cannot see anyone in the room, so Colin, flag me down if anyone has a question.
Sounds good.
Let me know when you're ready to start.
Whenever you are.
We are ready.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you for having me. I am Gary Foss. I'm the CEO of the ArcStar Group. We are an air service development and media company dedicated to regional airports throughout the United States and the Caribbean. We've been honored to work with Toby and his team since 2017. Previously, I was the Vice President of Planning and Marketing at American Airlines, in charge of all of the schedule and commercial activity for American Eagle and American Connection, going back from 1995 actually to 2012 for a long time. I left to be the President and Chief Executive Officer of the American Airlines affiliate in the Caribbean, coming back to the United States in 2017, where I met with Toby and started working with Toby and the team shortly thereafter. So your United Airlines flights are operated by SkyWest Airlines. They are widely regarded as the gold standard in the industry. I put them in the American Airlines program back in 2007, 2008, and it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made. They're not just the best, but they're the largest regional airline in the business. Those two kind of go hand in hand. And so the Hayes executive team and myself went to pay them a visit in St. George, Utah, which is where they're headquartered, a couple of weeks ago, back on June 26th, and we wanted to show you what they saw. The Hayes Airport has made a lot of progress, as you may have heard. So, without further ado, we'll start with the presentation that we did to SkyWest here. And we'll start by defining your market area. Your market area is defined as the area where people live the closest in drive time to the Hayes Airport. So there's 70 zip codes that are closer to Hayes than to any other commercial airport. And there's a population of roughly 100,000 in that catchment area, or that market area. So we're going to talk a lot about that market area and the study that we did there. What you see in the lower right-hand corner of this box here are the drive times to the airports where your people are flying to from downtown Hayes. And so you can see it's 9 minutes. Hello? Somebody say something?
Yep, we're here.
Continue.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Was there a question?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Yeah, so what you see here is the drive times to airports in the region that you're losing traffic to from downtown Hayes. Measured from downtown Hayes, we'll get into this in a lot more detail, of course, but primarily you lose traffic to Wichita, Kansas City, and Denver, so no surprise there. Now, I'm going to show you the gains that the Hayes Airport has made here in just a moment. But right now I'm going to show you some of the upside that we still have in spite of the excellent performance that the airport has had recently. So there's about 62,000 customers in 2024 that live closer to the Hayes Airport than any other airport with commercial air service. And those 62,000 or those 61,595, as you see here, drove an average of 2 hours and 49 minutes to fly. If they had taken the Hayes Airport, those travelers would have taken an average of 32 minutes. But you can see the distribution here of the various airports, again, weighted towards Wichita, Kansas City, and Denver here. And so the average ended up being 169 minutes. If we look at the low-hanging fruit, which are United Airlines customers, there were 14,203 United customers that live closer to Hayes that drove an average of an hour and 25 minutes, 85 minutes here, to fly, in spite of the fact that United Airlines is right here in our hometown, an average of 32 minutes away. So this really underscores that old habits die hard. This is not unusual. We would see this at virtually every regional airport. We did not consider a new schedule that we put in place at American to be mature for about a 2-year time period. It just takes a while for word to get out, and whenever people are making bookings, a lot of times there's a time lag, in those bookings, and so no alarm here. It's just that we have a lot of upside beyond what you're going to see. Now, Hayes had, no surprise to many of you, quite a subpar schedule that you struggled with for quite a number of years due to the pilot shortage that was impacting the regional carriers. SkyWest Airlines was not exempt from that whole process. But you now have what is virtually the optimal flight schedule with an early morning departure. You can see we circled it right here at 6:35, and a late evening return. It seems very late, but this is the overnight flight. This would be a prime overnight flight schedule timed to United Airlines' largest banks. The first bank out in the morning and the last bank back in the evening, which are called Omni banks, or they actually connect from both the west and the east. And so I'm going to show you here on the next slide how optimal this schedule actually is, and you're going to see it in the numbers. It's driving significant gains in your passengers. So what you see here on the left-hand side is the current schedule and the number of connections that are being made on an outbound basis to cities. So you connect to 182 different cities with the current schedule on an outbound basis. Coming in, there are connections from 218 cities. Now, not all of these cities are unique because you have multiple connections to Chicago and multiple connections to Los Angeles, that are building out there, but there are 100 unique city pairs that you actually connect to with this schedule. We have a tool that we can run that will go through every minute of the day and tell you what the absolute optimal schedule is. And the absolute optimal schedule is only 23 minutes different with a departure from Denver than what you currently have. So the optimal schedule would be departing from Denver at 4 o'clock, and SkyWest almost nailed it in the case of Hayes. Remember, they've got 300 cities out there. So a schedule is a trade-off. Not many communities would actually have a schedule, that is this optimal. The optimal schedule drives a few more connections on both an inbound and outbound basis, but the same number of unique destinations. So not a lot would be gained. Or think of it this way, you really do have the optimal schedule and the best schedule that I think Hayes has had maybe in history, certainly since SkyWest has been operating with jets. So the market responded immediately to this new flight schedule. What you see here are the months, and when they published this new, we call it a RON, or an overnight schedule, remain overnight, is what that stands for. So the RON schedule, or the early morning departure that you saw, and the late evening arrival. It was published on February 8th, actually launched here on April 2nd. And while we have summer seasonality built in here where there's more traffic in the summer than there is in the winter, this is far and away greater than what we would expect. And you'll see that on the next slide. And so we're really doing very, very well out there at Hayes Airport. What you see here is how well and the detail of that. So in the navy blue, the light blue, is 2025 by month. The navy blue is 2024, and 2023 is here in gray. And so you can see that when the flight was announced, this overnight flight, you had a immediate jump, and you're up 99% on a year-over-year basis in terms of traffic. And so this would be your normal seasonality, would be here in the blue, in the navy blue. So everything that you see that is above the navy blue here in 2025 is really a result of the new schedule. And so we have lapped ourselves. Remember, this happened on April 2nd of last year. And even having lapped that initiative of putting in these new flights, you're still up double digits relative to that, up another 10% after that big jump that you had of close to 100% last year. So this double-digit passenger growth is doing great. Your load factor, or you can think of it as your percent occupancy, what percentage of the seats are being used, is up 14 points on a year-over-year basis. So you had 49% of all of your seats were full, and now that is 63% of all of your seats that are full. So we're moving very rapidly in certainly in the right direction. Now, for some historical context, what we look at here is all of the months of May. We actually went back to 2002 and looked at the Hayes enplanements for the month of May. And these are your top months, so you hit a record. This was the highest month ever, up 10%. Remember, you saw that on one of the preceding slides. Up 57% from the last time that a airline other than SkyWest doing business at United operated here. So this is back in the Great Lakes Airlines days. Their record was in 2007. So we're breaking records across the board, and you're moving up relative to other essential air service markets. So what you see here on this chart, these are all airport codes down here at the bottom. These are all of the essential service airports in the country, and the TSA screenings at those essential EAS airports for 4 weeks, the most recent 4 weeks of data at the time that we built this slide. Now, you were in the lowest 25th percentile, Hayes was. Remember, we had struggled with the schedule that we had in place as recently as September of 2023. And you see you're breaking into the 75th percentile in terms of essential air service markets. And I have no doubt that this is going to continue to ratchet up given the aggressive marketing that the community is undertaken here. So what this shows, TSA screenings is just a proxy for enplanements. The TSA updates their website continuously on a daily basis. So we're able to show you how quickly your enplanement situation is changing in a very positive manner. Now, these are all of the EAS markets, not the EAS markets that SkyWest operates. How do you look to SkyWest? Is right here. So these are all of the essential air service markets that SkyWest operates. And you can see, once again, you were down here as recently as late 2023 within their portfolio, and you're rising very rapidly, number 14 out of the 33 markets in the most recent 4 weeks of data. So doing very, very well. You can see Salina over here is actually number 1 amongst the down the street from here. So Kansas airports are doing very well, pretty much across the board. Now, in Hayes, we are anticipating a record this year of nearly 34,000 round-trip enplanements out of the Hayes Airport here in 2025. And this is up a whopping 88% just since 2023. So just since the year before last, you can see on a round-trip basis. So what does round-trip mean? It means people getting on the plane in Denver, people getting on the plane in Hayes. So this is on both sides. That we've almost doubled that, or up 88% here. And we think this is actually pretty conservative, so we might actually beat this projection. I would expect that we would. So what we wanted to show you was some additional historical context here, that the primary driver of this traffic increase out at Hayes is the schedule, of course, and that is really the core product that an airline has. You can change the schedule 5 or 10 minutes, and you can drive significant change in your traffic depending upon where you connect, where you come in during the connecting bank. But you've also been helped by the fare situation, by the airfare situation. And so what you see here is a matrix going back to 2010 and all the way through 2024. You see your average fare that was paid in 2024 inflation-adjusted dollars. So we adjusted this to today's dollars of 476. So in very real terms, back in the Great Lakes days, this was keeping a lot of traffic away from the Hayes Airport. You know, your round trip back in 2010 through 2013, before SkyWest launched in 2014, you can see was significantly higher, you know, for a much lesser product. The gray line represents the number of seats per day each way that you're operating, and the blue is the number of passengers per day each way. So you can look at one chart and see the difference in the fare situation and the impact, if you will, on total traffic. And so two takeaways on this chart right here is that the consumers there in Hayes are getting a pretty decent deal. These are round-trip airfares on a relative basis, certainly relative to where you were before, and you are at record enplanements, as you saw. In 2024, you were carrying 40 passengers per day each way, which tied the previous record of 2019, just before the pandemic. But here you had 3 flights a day, and here you're only having 2 flights a day. So you're picking up the same level of traffic on fewer seats than what we're operating back then. Let me stop and just see, are there any questions that anyone has before we go on? I've covered a lot of information.
I don't think so, Gary.
Okay, great, thank you. If not, let me continue on. What you see here then is a comparison of your average round-trip airfares relative to the competitive markets that are out there. And so Kansas City, Dodge City, Wichita, Salina, Hayes, Manhattan, and Garden City, you can see the average fare according to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. So this is on file with the DOT. What we did is include the drive time and the dots here from downtown Hayes that each of these would represent. And the takeaway here, I think, is that while your fares are marginally higher than what the average would be in Wichita or in Kansas City with Frontier Airlines, with some of the ultra low-cost carriers, there's nothing here that would actually argue for a passenger driving. That differential is just not there in terms of the time spent. Remember, you've got parking charges here, you know, that are going to eat up this minor differential. So you're only talking about $35 each way, essentially, on average, your delta between you and Wichita and Kansas City. So we have all of the ingredients in place to really take this, continue the improvement and take things to the next level. Now, Jamie has done a marvelous job out there at the airport, and we showed this again. This is a presentation to SkyWest, so they're very interested as an airline, and all the details of the runway and square feet and TSA processing time and so on and so forth. But I wanted to call to your attention to two things here. The comment, the customer review from Ann R. Hayes Regional Airport serves the rural northwest region of Kansas with zero long lines, zero TSA attitude, and friendly people. And if that wasn't enough, the FAA Central Region described the airport as their Cinderella story, getting the crisping up of policies and procedures that Jamie and her team have undertaken here. Another comment, Dorothy uses this place to get back home, said Nathan B. SkyWest appreciated that. And you can just see the beautiful terminal here. You've got things in the works, paved parking lot expansion from 98 to 161 spaces. New terminal study, which is going to be needed, certainly coming down the pike to make sure that the product that we're offering SkyWest is one that SkyWest and United Airlines are very comfortable with. Jamie, did you have anything that you wanted to add here?
I don't think so, Gary.
Yeah, fantastic job. So, much of the traffic is driven by media and marketing, which has been headed up by Melissa Dixon. I don't know if Melissa's in the room or not, but a very aggressive posture. Toby asked me to share with SkyWest that if they put in that optimal schedule, which they ended up doing, he would sell the hell out of it, I think was the quote. And he was good on his word, and they appreciate that. SkyWest actually gets a monthly update as to everything that is going on in Hayes. And so the media campaign's been running nonstop since that schedule published, and you can see that we've generated over 4 million impressions with this. So this is reaching out to individuals with different ads every time. It's generated over 60,000 click-throughs to United.com. All of the ads are tied to United.com, and we advertise to people who are using the Wichita and Kansas City and Denver airports. We can tell through their cell phones that their cell phones have been seen at competitive airports, but in every case, who we're marketing to is your customer, people who live closer to the Hayes Airport. The click-through rate right here is multiples of industry standards. And so we're marketing aggressively through Facebook video, Instagram. We have about 1,000 publications that we're reaching out to. If somebody queries, goes out to AA.com, what they pick it out of Wichita, they get an ad real time on the spot for the Hayes Airport. You can Google search, we produce television commercials. Television commercials are not seen by the general public, they're streaming, and they only go to those households who are traveling by air. And so there's no wastage here, and they go primarily to the people who are not using your airport, that should use your airport. So it's a very targeted campaign, and seen as highly relevant. And as you can see, the market's responding very well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're not getting as of yet, which represents really truly the upside. So in line with most regional airports, this is a pie chart showing how much of the traffic is inbound to Hayes and how much of your traffic is outbound. And this is very much in line with the profile of the average regional airport in the country. About 2/3 of the traffic would be local residents flying out. About 1/3 of the traffic are people in New York, people in Florida, people in Europe, people in Asia, buying tickets to come to Hayes. So you can see the actual split. We call this point of origin share, is the inside baseball term, but this is the split for all of 2024. Now, what you see here, kind of the money chart, it is the breakout of your passengers, of that pie chart that you saw in the preceding slide. And so we are picking up 15% market share of all of the available passengers in the area. Now, this is up significantly from the past. I looked at one market study that was done 6 or 7 years ago, and this number was 7%. So we're heading the right direction. We're capturing double in this particular case relative to the last study that I saw, but capturing 15%. Now, said differently, we still have a lot of upside through advertising and you folks getting the word out and any other means that we can to try to continue to stimulate growth here at our local airport. Wichita is capturing 34% of all of the passengers living closer to the Hayes Airport. This is all that we're looking at right here is just people living closer to HYS. So 34% of them are using the Wichita Airport, 26% Kansas City, and 20% Denver. A lot of the Denver is international travelers, of course. But this is significantly higher than what most regional markets are. Salina, for example, captures only about 7% of their available market. And so, and you can see that, that they're producing very well. So things are certainly on an upswing, but we still have a little more to go. Now, out of your market area, you would think, and we'll get there, that United would be the biggest carrier, being that it's the only carrier that serves Hayes. But actually, more people are buying tickets on Southwest Airlines, given what you saw, that they're driving to Wichita, and Southwest, of course, has the big presence in Kansas City. So about 30%, roughly 28.6%, are buying tickets on Southwest. American performs very well in this part of the world. American has always been strong in Wichita and outperforms their seat share significantly, and they carry 27% of all of the traffic amongst those people who live closer to the Hayes Airport. But we're up and coming, and United, you can see here, is in third place at 23%. I'm sure the next time that I present to you folks will be certainly in number 2 or number 1 position, I would think. Of the passengers that are flying United, again, this is the low-hanging fruit, because really these people should, for the most part, be using the Hayes Airport. 2/3 of them are using the Hayes Airport, but you can see of those United passengers, you still have 17% using the Wichita Airport, 11% using the Denver Airport here. Not much amongst people actually flying United are using Kansas City, as you can see down here in the single digits. Now, where are they going? Where are people going? You see some of the ads that Melissa is running here for various locales around the country. First off, looking at your demand. Now, this is not your enplanements. This is where are the people going that live closer to the airport, regardless of the airport that they're using. It's skewed to the west. You can see here 52% of all of the traffic is traveling to the west, about 48% here to the east. West and east is defined as east or west of the Mississippi River here, in this case. So the biggest connecting area is down here in the yellow, the southeast. Some of that is Disney, and which is what you would expect. But there's actually quite a number of cities that you're connecting to here in this part of the world. The Midwest, here in the brown, is your number 2 connecting location. And beyond Denver, there's not a lot going to the Rockies. Of course, there's a lot of local traffic here to Denver, but not much connecting beyond the Denver hub itself. So think of the southeast as being your big connect point. Here you actually see the detail. We call this a waterfall chart, and these are the number of passengers per day each way. So your catchment area generates 168 people are flying by air each day that live closer to the Hayes Airport. So enough to fill up 3 or 4 planes, leaving from Hayes, which would be a nice nice thing to aspire to. So these are your top 20 markets, and you can see Denver is the biggest market. No surprise where the nonstop is. Las Vegas is your largest connecting market, but you have a lot of traffic. 8 people per day each way, or 16 people every day are going to St. Louis for whatever reason. I would think probably business related. Phoenix is roughly the same. And then Houston, that rounds out your top 5 right here, followed by Orlando, of course. So you have 5.2 passengers per day each way, or about 10 people, if you want to think of it that way, about 10 people going to Orlando every day from the Hayes area. Florida is, there's a lot of Florida in here. You can see as we go down Tennessee in the southeast, Charlotte, North Carolina is one of your top 20 producers. Atlanta, a lot of people want to go to Atlanta. Mexico, you can see, is very strong as well. But 5 or 6 Florida markets there in the southeast, aside from Orlando. The international traffic, you have a lot of international, and this is separate from any of the international traffic that is being produced out at Fort Hays State University amongst the student body. They travel through a different distribution channel. College kids typically around the country don't book through normal schedule publications the normal way that others do. They actually buy tickets in bulk from airlines like Korean Airlines or some of the Chinese airlines, if you will, and they don't flow through the Airline Reporting Corporation, which is where all airline tickets flow through in the United States. So everything that you're looking at here is 16,000 international travelers. That is on top of the students that are traveling to Asia from Fort Hays State University. And so you've got a lot of international travel, a very healthy international presence, much more than the typical regional market in the United States. Much more international travel. And a lot of it is probably tied to, the university itself, not the student body, but just projects that the university may be undertaking. You have a significantly higher educational level than most communities in the United States, and so that demographic does travel internationally much more. So where do the international travelers leave from? It's split almost a tie between Denver, Wichita, and Kansas City. You can see each one of them is about a third. So it's understandable people driving to Denver if you can fly nonstop to London out of there, but you pay a hefty price to park, I think $38 a night or something like that. And Wichita's picking up, you can see 29.7%, Kansas City here picking up a good share as well. So we're capturing 7.4% of all of the international travel available to us aside from the student body. And where are your folks going here? A lot of Mexico, you can see. So Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, very nice upscale destination of Mexico. Cancun is number 2 amongst your top 20. I understand from Melissa, whose husband works out at Fort Hays State, that there's a project that the university has going on in Dublin, Ireland. We see the Caribbean here quite a bit, and for the very first time, we're marketing the Caribbean. There are good connections to the Caribbean over Denver on United Airlines. United has been expanding their portfolio in the Caribbean, and so we're marketing that aggressively. I would expect that we're going to pick up quite a bit of traffic to places like Puerto Rico and Jamaica here going forward. Cozumel, Mexico is number 7, you can see here. And then we get into probably some of the project-related travel, again, tied to the university, South Africa, Kenya, Frankfurt, Germany, and so on. You can see Rome, Italy down here. So these are your top 20 markets where people are traveling that live closer to the Hays area. So pretty fascinating stuff. So in summary, beautiful airport. These are some of the ads that we put together that are on display there, and they show very nicely. SkyWest and United, great product at a great price. Passengers are happy, evidenced by our projection of an 18% increase in 2025, 88% increase over 2023, 18% over 2024. The schedule is almost all optimal, as you saw. There are a lot of potential passengers still to be captured because we are capturing 15% of the market, but again, that is higher than most regional markets of Hayes size that are sitting in the shadow of these major airports like Wichita, Kansas City, and Denver. And so this is nothing to be disappointed about, although I think that we'll continue to boost it from here. SkyWest is delighted. They love the Hayes folks. Love what you guys are doing. Love the fact that the marketing is so aggressive, and they're very, very appreciative of that. They have no immediate plans to change anything substantially. They will continue to operate the CRJ200s here anywhere from a 5 to 10 year time horizon, another 5 to 10 years. You can get 40 years out of a commercial aircraft if it's properly maintained. All of their planes go into maintenance once every third night, so their planes are pristine, and they can get many more years of service out of that. So they have no plans to change anything there, but have pledged to give us plenty of notice if they were to step up to a higher aircraft, which will happen at some point. It would be in the 70-seat dual class variety, something like an Embraer 175, and would take some investment out at the airport. And so they recognize that. Toby had that conversation with them, and they assured him and the Hayes executive team that they would give you plenty of notice, if there were any kind of change in the fleet, but nothing contemplated today. And that what you see, I think the bottom line here is that the investments we have made in the airport are reaping benefits. SkyWest wouldn't have put the overnight flight, which is sought by every community, into Hayes if you couldn't handle it from a customer standpoint in a fashion that United Airlines can be proud of. So just the fact that the numbers speak for themselves, of course, here. And the investments are generating a very nice return on investment. The state of Idaho did a study that I can circulate over to whoever would want to see it, that showed that every dollar invested in air service actually yields $16 in economic development. It makes corporate recruiting easier. You're tied in very nicely with the fastest growing U.S. network carrier, in the case of United, that's operating on 6 continents. They're selling you on 6 continents. They're selling Hayes. People in Germany can buy a ticket to Hayes, Kansas, online. And so the investments in the airport and the investments in your air service are felt throughout your community. I think it's fair to say, and I think it speaks for itself. So it's something that you're putting. Toby's putting his money where his mouth is, and you guys are putting your money in the right place. Let's put it that way. I guess would be the best way to say it. So with that, you've made a lot of progress, as I said when we started. I'm confident that that's going to continue, and you should be very proud of the airport and what you have out there. It's a real jewel. So let me answer any questions that you might have, or field any comments.
Gary, this is Sandy Jacobs, currently the mayor of the city. This is an outstanding presentation. Thank you so much for putting it together and taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure.
We
No, my
know,
pleasure.
we know how good we are and we know how good Jamie is, but it's a whole lot better when we see a presentation like this. And Toby does usually put his money where his mouth is, so
He
um,
does. He
we're
certainly does.
we're
It's not much
extremely
different
pleased.
than Toby.
Extremely pleased.
You wouldn't have, I'll just say it this way, you wouldn't have the overnight flights, if it weren't for Toby, that's for sure. I can promise you that.
Well, I get a lot of calls on, as do all commissioners, on things in the community. But as this, the EAS situation federally has come about and us talking about the airport more, I'm getting calls all the time that says, whatever it takes, keep that airport, keep those planes.
Beautiful.
And so
That's
it's
beautiful.
on
That's
everybody's
beautiful.
mind.
That's
Commissioners?
fantastic, that's really good to hear, that's music to my ears, yeah. And there was nothing in the bill that the president signed concerning any cuts to the EAS program. We're gonna have to be vigilant. There were, Speaker Johnson promised 2 rescission bills here this year where his membership get to take another whack at it. But I've been doing this 47 years now, and I can't recall a time, always on the regional side, and I can't recall a time when the EAS program wasn't under attack. It serves a very strong need in rural America and keeps communities like yours tied to the global air network, and it really is the equivalent of the railroad either coming through town or not coming through town. I happen to come from South Dakota and a place that has a lot of ghost towns, where the railroad used to come through. And so it's really nice to have the kind of air service that you do have and the product that you have for your community.
Any questions, commissioners?
No, I think I can just tell you that from the perspective of the museum, we have 50, 60 kids every summer that have to fly into Hayes for our summer camps on very tight schedules. They can't, pick and choose a lot. So just the change in the schedule to making it close to optimal, but staying consistent has been a huge benefit. I just had one interesting thing that I might just be weird, but I was looking at your optimal schedule.
Yeah.
And your optimal schedule, because you said 10, 20 minutes can make a huge difference in people flying in and out.
Right.
Your optimal schedule would leave Hayes 20 minutes later than what it does, 6:52 instead of 6:35, and would leave to come back to Hayes 20 minutes earlier.
Let me go back.
It's page 5.
Here.
It's page 5.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is right here.
So it just is interesting to me that I would think that if the earlier you left Hayes in the morning, the more chances you would have to make more connections than if you left 20 minutes later. And yet it says we've got, there are more connections if you leave 20 minutes later. And the same thing on the way back. You would think that if you left 20 minutes later from Denver to come here, there'd be more connections available than if you left 20 minutes earlier. But yet the bigger connections for the optimal thing is leaving later from Hayes and earlier from Denver.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it has to do with some of the vagaries of how schedules are published. A flight schedule is only published 4 hours from the arrival time in the hub. And so nothing is published beyond that 4-hour time frame, minus what's called the minimum connect time. So United has a minimum connect time at Denver of 35 minutes. That's the minimum that it takes to, not just for the passengers, to get from one plane to the other, but the minimum that it takes to get their bags from one plane to the other. And so no schedules are published within that 35-minute time. It's only on minute 36 after a plane lands. So from minute 36 after a plane lands, minute number 36, up until minute 240 or 4 hours later, only those flights billed as quote-unquote legal connections in the industry reservation platforms. They're called global distribution systems. And so where you come into that bank and what the structure of that bank looks like ends up driving the number of connections. And what I mean by that is that some banks are eastbound out of Denver, some banks are westbound. And so when you come in, if you're wanting to go to the east, that doesn't help you. And then some banks are omni banks, which have connections both to the west and the east to the major cities. And so it's like many things, the devil's in the details in terms of where you come in and in that bank and whether that bank is an omni bank structure or not. This 100 destinations and this 100 destinations are quite different. So even though the numbers are the same, you wouldn't have the same unique city pairs just by moving the flight 23 minutes, from a Denver departure of 4:23 over to 4 o'clock. And so you have to take into account, is it going the direction of the bank? Is it east, west, or every direction, omni? And then also just the minimum connect-on. The minimum connect-ons are different for international departures as well. And so it's hard to kind of think through logically what makes the most sense. And I understand absolutely, and I agree with your assessment, but it again has more to do with which cities are departing and whether they're departing at the beginning of that bank or at the end of the bank. So what you're doing by, let's see here, so the departure, the change here is in an earlier departure from Denver, which is obviously picking up a different tail end of that 4-hour window, if you understand what I'm saying. And so by having an earlier departure out of Denver, maybe by departing here, you missed the London flight by 5 minutes, or you missed the flight to Tokyo by 5 minutes, and you get it over here, with this, because of the way, again, that schedules are published.
So what you're really saying is that we should be really happy that you and Jamie are on this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And they are.
I
think-
actually oversaw the schedule publication for American, for the big airline, for a couple of years as well, while I was doing the regional. And so the vagaries of an airline schedule, it's really very hard to understand. It's a very nuanced industry, heavily regulated. You've got a lot of pilot flight time rules that end up impacting schedule banks, right down to the circadian rhythms of the pilots themselves and where they started that morning. So because you can't schedule them more than 10 hours a day, so you end up building your flight schedule around things that you wouldn't think that you'd be building your flight schedule around. Maintenance, of course, maintenance needs drives flight schedule in a very big way. So a schedule is it's just a big balloon that you squeeze, and it pops out in all these different directions that you really can't contemplate, if you will. And it's just a big compromise between hundreds of variables.
We really,
You have everything from the flight crews themselves to where is the demand, to the maintenance schedule for different planes, and so on and so forth.
We appreciate that you really take the time to get that figured out.
Gary, I think we have, in the essence of time, we have one more question from Commissioner Musil.
No really question, I just, I think the proof is in the pudding. Kind of what you were saying, we're pretty proud of being the best or trying to be the best out here. And it just shows what we're doing, it's working. And we need to continue it to be even better. It looks like we can grow even more, and that's what we want, so.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time today, Gary. We look forward to the next one. You're a very good presenter. It was a great program. Thank you.
No, well, that's very sweet of you to say. Well, thank you so much. And again, it's easy to present something when it's winning, right?
That's right. That's true. That's true.
Much more easily received.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
thanks for having me again, and for, you know, that fabulous job that the folks out at the airport are doing. Makes my job easy.
We appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie, is right. Okay, we're on to, that really was a really
Was.
good
Good
presentation.
stuff.
And I wish more people could get that information on a community-wide basis, because I think everybody would be impressed with what's happening and how it's going.
Gary's a sharp guy, and there's a reason we've used him since 2017. He's good, and the people he work with are good.
You know,
And he's a very, I mean, he really is a skilled presenter, and he has a great voice for it.
and Sandy, I think we should, Mayor, sorry, we should also thank our legislators and senators for fighting for that EAS funding, because, you know, we were all nervous, and it sounds like right now we're good. And, you know, I know they put a lot of energy and effort into that, so I think we owe them a big thanks for that.
Absolutely. Thanks for
I was
mentioning
going to
that.
include this in the Friday update tomorrow, but I'll just tell you now, the spending bill that originated in the Senate right now, they're considering, has no cuts to the EAS. So the EAS was the Trump administration's proposed budget, had the EAS cuts, but the bill that's circulating around the Senate right now does not have any EAS cuts. So that's good news.
Good news. Okay, moving on. Item 6 on the agenda, resolution authorizing the city to issue bonds to finance Exit 161, infrastructure improvements, and the Grove Development public infrastructure improvements. Kim Rupp.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kim Rupp. Have David Arterberry, who was here with us last week, on the phone. Dave, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you. He's with Stiefel Nicholas. We've got 2 resolutions for you that carry 3 bond issuances on 4 projects. So the 4 projects we'll discuss with these issuances are the automated metering infrastructure, the police courts facility, the Grove RHID, and finally those I-70 exit 161 infrastructure improvements. I'll talk a little bit about the resolutions, and then I'll turn it over to Dave. He'll have a financing plan overview for you. So the project authorization resolution, the city previously created the Grove RHID, if you recall, and entered into a development agreement with Groves Hayes regarding the associated residential housing project. As part of that development agreement, the city agreed to finance public infrastructure related to the RHID. The city has also previously considered the need to make infrastructure improvements in the vicinity of Interstate 70 and Exit 161. Approval of the project authorization resolution will allow city to issue general obligation bonds to fund those infrastructure improvements in the RHID and Exit 161. According to the development agreement, the city has agreed to finance construction of infrastructure in RHID, the Grove. The city will have the right to the annual RHID increment, and that will pay back those bonds. We estimate that at full build-out, the annual increment generated will be sufficient to pay that debt service. City's also previously considered those infrastructure improvements at the Exit 161. That project is in its infancy, so city staff recommends that a portion of the costs of that be temporarily financed through sale of general obligation temporary notes. We anticipate the Grove public infrastructure cost approximately $3.675 million. There's also a component that is taxable of $825,000. Those are costs that will go back to Grove Hayes that they had prior to the development of that. IRS says that those are taxable. Then the city anticipates those improvements at 161 will be about $4 million. That is net of that grant that was applied for. So that's the sale authorization, the project authorization. Sale authorization, approval of that will authorize us and advisors to take action necessary to offer for sale General Obligation Bond Series 2025-A. That's to fund the RHID. Also to permanently finance the AMI project, which we had temporarily financed last year, if you recall. To fund the police and courts facility. The sale resolution also allows us to offer General Obligation Bond Series 2025-B in order to fund that economic development arm to the Grove Hayes. And then finally, the temp notes 2025-1 for Exit 161. State law on capital market structures require that city staff and the city's advisors take various actions prior to the city general obligation bonds or notes. Those actions may include publication requirements, offering documents, drafting, and other preparations to receive bids on the securities for sale. Approval of the sale resolution will authorize all necessary actions to offer that sale. If that sale resolution is approved, the city, along with David, will prepare, solicit, and receive bids for sale of the bonds and notes. Those will be presented to you in August. You'll have the ability to bid or accept or reject those. So I'll turn it over to Dave. He's going to have a little financing plan for you, overview, the calendar going forward, as well as an overview on market conditions. So Dave?
Great. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Kim, just so I'm aware, do you have that presentation out for them to see?
I do, yes.
Okay, good, good. If you wouldn't mind turning to the first page after the table of contents.
Okay.
What I show here is basically a summary of the estimated sizing for each of the different series of bonds and notes that Kim was mentioning. The first, and I think it's on the upper left-hand side of the slide, you'll see the tax-exempt series 2025A bonds. And that consists of 3 projects, the AMI project, the police station, as well as the infrastructure, the streets and roads and utilities in the Groves RHID. The total estimated principal amount of these bonds is $14,375,000, and that includes project costs as well as temporary note interest for the police station and for the AMI project and issuance costs. The next series of bonds is what I'm referring to as the 2025B bonds, is the small taxable series of bonds that are issued for the grant that was associated with the Groves project. And next to each of those dollar amounts for the borrowing amount, you'll see the anticipated borrowing length for each of the different issues. And then finally, the temporary notes, you'll see there, the series 2025-1 notes for exit 161. The estimated borrowing amount there is $4,075,000, again, includes issuance costs. And the length of that note is just 1 year. It's anticipated that we would pay those off when the project's done next year with the bond issue. I also included on this list another note for the police station that we anticipate would be done later this year, and it would be similar to the police station note that the city issued last year. It would be just a 1 day note that the city would pay off with money currently in its bond and interest fund. So you're not taking any action related to the 2025-2 note today. That's just showing you in the future what would be transpiring. Kim, if you wouldn't mind switching over to the next page now. What I've attempted to do here is to show project by project how much future bond payments will be due for each of the different improvements. So first here on this schedule, I'm showing the debt service on the metering project, and you'll see those payments are about $284,000 per year going out 20 years. On the next page, you'll see the estimated payments on the police department. Those are, about $518,000 a year for 20 years. The next page here is a little bit different because it includes payments both on the tax-exempt 2025A bonds that were issued for the Groves, as well as it incorporates also the payments on the taxable 2025B bonds that were issued for the Groves. When you combine all those payments together, you can see the payment structure there. One thing that's a little bit different than the other bonds, it does go out a little bit longer. It goes out 23 years. That matches up with the remaining term of the RHID, which expires in 2049. You'll also see the payments there are lower in earlier years. They're about $200,000 a year for the first 5 years or so. The reason we structured it that way is because that's sort of what we anticipating sort of the build-out period of the new development would be. Hopefully then by the end of that period of time, the subdivision's fully built out, the full increment is being collected, and at that point in time, the bond payments will ramp up. We are we're planning on scheduling the 2025 B bonds to be callable in 5 years, so that at that 5-year period of time, if you've built up some additional money, you could use it during the build-out phase. You could use that then to begin paying off the debt early, beginning in 2020 and 2030. So that's sort of the structure for each of the different projects' debt. On the next page of the handout, what you'll see there is a calendar of events for the transaction. And I've highlighted in yellow activity that the commission would have related to the bond. So on the top there, you see July 3rd, we met with the commission at a work session to discuss the financing plan. Today, July 10th, you'd consider the 2 resolutions that Kim mentioned to you for the projects and for the sale of the bonds and notes. Then over the next month or so, we would be doing all of the things necessary to prepare for the bond sale, like getting a rating on the bonds, preparing the official statement that would be distributed to potential investors for the bonds, preparing bidding documents for the bonds, and then distributing them. All of that would then build up to the bond sale date that would occur on the 28th of August. On that day, we would bids would be taken for each of the different series of bonds and notes, and pending approval of the city commission that night, we would award the sale of the notes and the bonds to whichever firm would offer the lowest interest rate for each series. So that would occur on the 28th. Prior to the 28th of July, on the 21st, the commission would sort of review the sale documents. After the sale occurs on the 28th, at your meeting that evening, the commission would then review the results of the sale, and if things looked acceptable, pass a bond ordinance and resolution and a note resolution to officially issue the notes and bonds and lock in the interest rates. After that, there's some review of the legal documents that would occur by the Attorney General and the closing memo distributed. And if things go as planned, then on September 25th, the transaction would close and the funds would be delivered to the city. So kind of a long overview there, but hopefully you kind of followed all that. I also did, you also should on the next page see a chart of interest rates that basically tracks the rate for a very, very highly AAA rated tax-exempt bond since January of 2022. And the graph includes lines for both a 1-year maturity, that's the green line, a 10-year maturity, which is the blue line, and a 20-year maturity which is the red line. And you'll see on there, overall, how much rates have come up from early 2022. But you'll also see on the right-hand side sort of where we're at right now, which, the 20-year rate, we're sort of near the top that we've been over the last few years. You know, the 10-year rate, we're also sort of near the top, and the 1-year rate, we're sort of in the midpoint of where we've been. So, you know, unfortunately, we can't control what the market is at any given time, but rates have been trending down nicely, at least over the last few weeks, and hopefully that will continue, you know, leading up to the sale in a couple of months. So just wanted to kind of go over that with you, and obviously welcome any questions that you might have about any of the material that I covered.
Commissioners? I think we're good. I don't think we have any questions.
I think you've wowed them.
Yep.
We are wowed.
Appreciative silence.
Sure.
So options today would be approve those resolutions, decline, or give us other direction. And these are two different agenda items. So the first, the one that the mayor read off is the top motion that we're asking for, and then the second.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-010, authorizing the city to issue bonds to finance the Grove RHID public infrastructure improvements and I-70 exit 161 infrastructure improvements. Do I get to read both of them?
No.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Barrick, seconded by Commissioner Cunningham. Any further discussion?
I have two questions. Toby, on exit 161, I mean, that's quite an investment that we're doing, and nothing secured out there. I guess I don't know how to say this, but it just concerns me a little bit that we don't have anything that we know of going out there and we're doing this.
Well, the
And-
thought of
and-
the commission, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I know we've been pushing for it and we've had people look at it, but recently we haven't really nailed anything down, and it's just, to me, it's a lot of money going out to something that we don't know if something's going to happen out there.
The idea that the commission had, and this is based off of feedback we've received from retailers and developers, is that you won't have anything out there until there's infrastructure there. And so, if you build it, then you can actually sell lots off. But it does no good to sell lots off now because there's no infrastructure, and somebody would have to spend that amount of money to get infrastructure there. It's going to be hard for a couple smaller endeavors to do that.
Fair enough.
We're utilizing grant funding from the state that we receive for that payment, correct?
For part of it,
For part of
But
it,
just
yes.
a portion.
My other question is, on that 20-year note, if they would drop quite a bit, interest rates, can we refinance that or not? Is that locked in?
Dave, on the 20-year, what's the call on that again? Is that out 10 years?
I think probably on the 20-year issue, we would be looking at an 8 or a 9-year call feature. So you could refinance in 8 or 9 years.
So Dave's real good about that, also kind of watching what occurs. We've come to you before in years past with reissuances to refinance basically what we've got. So as those calls come up, he's real good about.
So how do you? I don't want to say this. How much percent does it have to drop to make it worth our time to refinance?
Dave, the question was, what percentage drop would we want to see before it's worth reissuing?
Yeah, usually in order to make it cost effective to refinance, usually we look for probably about a percentage point drop in the interest rate. In other words, at the time of the refinancing, rates need to be about a percentage point lower than the rate that is on the outstanding bonds.
I appreciate that comment, but as a prior banker, I'd probably look at a bigger number than that.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I don't. You would know more than I would. So, okay.
Not necessarily.
Well, okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Oh, comments?
Sorry. And those rates are based on our AAA rating.
We have a AA rating.
AA rating, okay.
Hoping for that again.
Okay.
That's Dave. City our size that's near the top, right?
Right, yeah, your AA rating, the rating scale goes AAA, AA, A, triple B. And within each of those categories, within the AA and A and triple B category, there's a further designation of AA plus, AA, and AA minus. You are right in the middle at the AA level, just 2 notches away from a AAA. That is a very, very good rating, one of the highest of any city in the state. And also, just to clarify, the interest rates that I show on the individual debt service schedules, those are an estimate of where I think the market is, were you to sell bonds today. That's obviously subject to change and won't be determined until bids are open on the bonds.
Right. Okay.
Okay, no other questions? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Passes 5-0.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-011, authorizing the offering for sale of the city's general obligation bond series 2025-A, taxable general obligation bond series 2025-B, and general obligation temporary notes series 2025-1.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Musil. I have a game I play here to see who can do it. And I won again. Questions, comments? Commissioner Musil, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Everybody's good? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Commissioner comments, Commissioner Musil.
The only thing I would say is I think on the fireworks, we do need to maybe reassess. I don't know, I don't have a grand scheme how to fix it, but I know every year it seems like people are saying it's getting out of control. I don't know what's out of control, what's not, but I think it's something we should be thinking about. I don't have a way to fix it, so I'm not necessarily complaining, but I think it should be in the back of our minds to consider something. But I still think it's, from what I hear, it's about 50-50. You either hate it or you love it, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So.
Probably a fair statement on 50-50.
Yeah.
Commissioner Barry.
Yeah, I think, we're hitting the middle of the summer, and I'd like to make sure that everybody actually takes the opportunity to get out and enjoy the summer. There's lots of things going on in Hayes. The weather's warm and great, but we've had some rain. But actually, don't forget to go out and enjoy the summer. And we did have the chance to have the governor here yesterday, and I want to appreciate the fact that the city staff worked really hard with the governor's office with all of the water issues we had. And Mayor, I want to compliment you on what you were able to do, since you won't compliment yourself, as far as laying out at the ceremony, at the signing yesterday, all the things that Hayes has done for our conservation of water, the young people in the community. And so it was, I think it was an honor for us, but it was also really, I think, shows how important water is to us, and us being a leader, really getting the state to buy into the fact that they need to put resources into water by creating the task force. And so I just want to appreciate both Toby, the city, and then also what you were able to spell out yesterday.
Yeah, I agree.
Commissioner Cunningham.
So I wanted to add some comments on Governor Kelly being here. I feel like it was a great honor that she chose Hayes to sign the bill. It does echo a little bit what Commissioner Barrick said, that we've shown a long-term investment and the state is now taking part in that. And so I think that says a lot about our community. And Governor Kelly said something yesterday that has sat with me since, and so my comments go towards the budget. I know I wasn't here last week, but I've listened to the presentation, and she said that plans sit on a shelf. Mm-hmm. And that really hit home with me, in that we create a budget that's not just a plan, that we create a budget that is working, it's comprehensive, and that it's conservative within our means. And so I just want to extend that thank you to the staff who put it together. and all the departments and their work in making sure that we're getting what we need, but we're staying within our means. So
Very good point.
that's, yeah,
Good point.
that's all I got.
Commissioner Reuter?
I just wanted to touch with Toby, Jamie, Melissa, your guys' work in the last few years, coming back from a pandemic. That is made me speechless. Absolutely wonderful. I hear nothing but good things about our airport. I know it's one of my favorite places to fly out of. It's great. Free parking. It's amazing, too. So really appreciate your guys' hard work on that and appreciate our state and federal leaders' support on that as well. I just wanted to touch on the governor's comments yesterday as well. Mayor Jacobs had a wonderful speech highlighting what Hayes has done for the last 50 years and what we are as a leader to the state, and the governor's recognizing that. And the bipartisan bill that she signed into law yesterday to create that task force is going to provide us sustainability for years to come.
If you're ever required to go on stage and do a presentation that relates to the city, be sure and call the city manager for talking points.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes it a whole lot easier to put together a presentation. And I do appreciate that, Toby, because it did really make me look good. I had lots of comments since that.
Did a great job.
There's so many things that I could comment on tonight. I think one of the things the governor said that I thought was so important, and I think one of the reasons that she chose to come to Hayes, she is so impressed, and sidebar to all the other conversations, she commented to me, the work we do with the youth. She is so impressed with that, and she was impressed to see some of them showing up. And Vice Mayor Reuter's comments about being part of that activity when he was a kid, it was very impressive. And what it showed to her was the sustainability of what we're doing. I mean, we're talking about Mason, who must be at least 29 or something, I don't know. But that was when he was a young kid in school. I mean, we've sustained that for a lot of years and gotten to where we're going. And city staff, along with Holly, it's really important that it continues. I do think the EAS thing is dead for now, I hope, but we'll knock on wood. And lastly, I was going to comment also on planning and what she did say about the plans sitting on the shelf. That's one thing we don't do in this community. We don't have plans that sit on the shelf. I talk often about the 20-year comprehensive plan that I participated in 2012. I don't think there's anything left in it, is there? Is there anything left to work on?
It's minor.
It gets pulled off the shelf, it gets ticked off, things get taken care of, and we're ready for the next one to start. So the progressiveness of this community rests in a lot of commissioners before us, with this sitting body, but for staff, without you guys, we would be in not very good shape. So it's very, very appreciative.
Yep.
I'm very, very appreciative. No executive session? We're done.